Hi, and welcome back to another episode of My Life in China. Now, I know I said in maybe the past two episodes that I was going to talk about just how life has been, but I think I'm actually going to dial it back and talk about the essentials and not so essentials to living in China. In other words, just what are the things that I needed before coming here, and what are the things that I found that I needed and didn't need so much when now after living here for so long. So I'm going to kind of split it into the essentials list first, and then the not so essentials. All right. So the first thing I'm going to say is essential is a VPN. Now, what is a VPN? A VPN lets you set your internet location in another place. Now, why is that essential for China? Well, China has this thing called the Great Firewall, where they block so many websites, so many sites are blocked in China. It's less of a what is blocked and more of a what's not blocked kind of thing. So like typical websites, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all these social media sites, any of these, like any of the sites you like to use, are blocked. Maybe you don't care about these, but like if this is your main way of communicating with friends or family, then you're gonna need a VPN. If you're much more like if you like to play games or your friends hang out on some chat rooms like Discord, again, you're gonna need a VPN. When I came to China, I got given this basic VPN by my boss, and it kind of did the job, but it was definitely slow, and it didn't really allow me to connect to different places and still have a good connection. So I eventually got this new VPN called Express, and Express at the start was a little bit like fucky, I guess you could say. But after a while, Express worked. Express has been great. I'm going to sound like I'm doing an ad call here. Express is great for the location in China. They have a little bar at the bottom which tells you the best cities to connect to when you're in China. They frequently roll out updates whenever China updates their firewall, and they always recommend the best one. And with all the locations, the connection is still very good. Now, because I use Steam to play a lot of my games, I need to download and update games, and I was worried that the connection would drop based on a VPN, but no, my connection's like 35 megabytes download like a second, which is really good. Of course, ping's affected with VPNs. If you're playing games online against other people, you're going to have a high ping depending on the location you're in. Even here, when I connect to Hong Kong, I'm still going to have a ping of like 100, 120. So if you can, just don't use your VPN when playing online. But that's a kind of more specific gamer-oriented thing. Steam typically works without the VPN anyway, so you don't need to be too fussed about that one. And of course, money. Express is kind of expensive, as people would say, but for me, I think I paid for a year, and it cost me maybe, I can't even remember, like 700 RMB, so it's not that much, to be perfectly honest, especially for a year of like free proper access to the internet. So yeah, and a VPN is absolutely essential, whether it's to play games and download them, whether it's to talk to friends and family. Now, the next thing is very essential for when you come to China, and that is an unlocked phone. Now, what I mean by this is making sure your phone can take any SIM card and not just by a specific provider. Obviously, I'm in the UK base, so making sure your phone is not like stuck with O2 or Vodafone or whatever the hell. Make sure your phone is unlocked, because when you come to China, of course, your SIM card is not really going to work here. You're going to want to move into a Chinese SIM card, which you can get at the store. I think a store that's pretty much right at the airport. But for me, I got my SIM card the following day because I was setting up contracts with my boss. So yes, make sure your phone is unlocked before you come to China. Another thing, now this comes into like packing, that we're going to talk about, is clothing. Now, of course, yes, clothing is essential. You need to pack clothes. But I'm also going to say, depending on your size, you might not need so much or so little. If you are, I guess you could say on the smaller side, both in like height and weight, then you might not need to pack so much there. But if you're quite big, now I'm not exactly tall, I'm 5'9", and if you're kind of fat, and I'm definitely fat, and if you've got big feet, you might need to pack maybe just a spare couple of t-shirts or two, or trousers, or even shoes, because the average size of a person in China is smaller than, for me, the West, the UK. Especially much more noticeable with shoes. I'm a size 9 shoes, but that's actually near like the upper threshold limit, and quite often I go to shoe stores and they don't have my size, which is kind of shit, especially if I really like the shoes that we've got. So you might need to order online for a lot of shoes. With clothing, you know, I was always going to be an L, but sometimes, you know, you get bumped up to an XL and XXL when you're in China because, again, the average t-shirt size is smaller here. Maybe I was a normal L back in the UK, but here I'm an XL. It's a big gut punch, you know. Like, yeah, you're fat. You're even fatter by Chinese standards. That's kind of what it is. So yeah, mind your clothing. Just if you're definitely on the bigger side, just prepare an extra couple of shirts just for spares, and obviously to change into until you can order some more when you go over here. Now another thing is, obviously China's huge, so depending where you go, it's a big thing. But China gets very hot in like kind of late spring, summer to August to the end of autumn. Sorry. It gets very hot, can jump up to like 35 degrees. Now I'm in Yangzhou, which is kind of like, it's I don't know, kind of mid. Yangzhou gets quite hot, but the thing that kind of surprises me is Yangzhou can get quite cold, particularly in your houses. Now again, this varies from wherever the hell you're going to be in China, but from what I've gathered, a lot of apartments are not insulated for winter. So no heat stays in your apartment. So make sure either you get a heater when you come over here, like I did, or you've got some just kind of snug clothes that you can wear, just like blankets and stuff like that you can wear when you're in the house. Because it does get very cold in winter, especially here for me. Now that might just be more specific to me, but hey, further north they might be feeling the same, and south might be the same as well. So yeah, clothing is just kind of it's a personal thing, but it's just giving you a heads up to the difference. So make sure if you're big, you've got some spare clothes, and wherever you're going to be, you've got some warm clothes as well. Another thing, which is fairly obvious here, is a power adapter. Shouldn't really have to explain this. Different voltages, different plugs. You know, if you're bringing your phone charger, your laptop, blah blah blah, make sure you've got the right adapters for it. That one doesn't need much more detail. Another thing is deodorant. Now you might be thinking, oh yeah, I'll get deodorant when I'm in China. I've just really just discovered the reasoning for what I'm about to talk about here when researching for this video. Deodorant is not that common to buy in stores in China, at least for me anyway. I've maybe found one store that sells deodorant here, because the Chinese don't typically wear deodorant. And now I thought it was a culture thing. I was like, well, maybe they just don't like sprays or some shit. I don't know. But when I was looking it up, I was like, they must not wear it for some reason. So I looked it up and I found that the Chinese don't wear deodorant because most Asians have this gene, or have a lack of this gene, that produces the odor from like smelly armpits or private parts, you know, smells that come from sweat. So they don't have the need for deodorant, and I was shocked that the Asians were literally built different in such a weird scale for me. So deodorant might not be common for you. Maybe you've got maybe you have the lack of the gene, or maybe you've done surgery to remove the sweat glands anyway. But just make sure you've got some deodorant spare. You can buy deodorant in stores. You can still order it online as well. But just for that initial first month, make sure you've got some deodorant with you. Another thing is masks. Now, of course, that's the obvious thing in this COVID world. You need a mask. But even if it wasn't COVID, even if it's completely fine, which China likes to act like it is right now, you still need a mask. The air pollution is really bad in a lot of cities. Now, I'm in a tier 3 city, as it's called, which is a lower end city, but the air pollution still gets really bad here because this tier 3 city has a population of 4 million. It's insane. So the pollution gets really bad here. The air is not good for your lungs. Now, if you're going to Shanghai, Beijing, it's not any better. So make sure you've got some masks that can block out like any of that pollution and smog that you're definitely going to experience. And finally, again, this is essential, especially if you can't speak the language, and that is a translator app. The best one I've found is Google's translator app, having a mixture of writing, speaking, typing, and a camera, so that not only can you type the messages or you can speak to people, which translates back, you can also take photos or scan photos of signs or menus or documents, and it will translate it roughly at to a good level. Saved me a lot. It's been very helpful, especially when dealing with apps as well. I'll get into that bit in a second. But also to talk, Google's Translate app kind of works so that you can kind of have a conversation with people using their conversation part, if you pair it with the VPN, that is, so that they can access the files needed for it. So yeah, make sure you've got a good translator app. I recommend Google's one. But if you've got a phone like Samsung's Ultra, which I've got, it has their pen has a built-in translate tool, which really works well on scanning apps and messages. This ties into a couple of other things I'll explain as well. That's useful. So yeah, make sure you get a translator app, and of course, if you're planning to learn the language, pick up an app that helps you learn the language, or have a friend help you teach if you're over here. For me, I rather stupidly haven't bothered to learn the language. I've picked up on a lot of phrases and things that I can say to communicate to the parents I work with, the kids. So I've never really bothered beyond that, and I've learned a couple of things just to get me by. So yeah. And the final essential thing is 2 apps. Now, you're probably going to have to download one of these apps before you come to China for some reason or another. But you're definitely going to need them when you come over here. And that is your WeChat. You need WeChat and Alipay. Now, WeChat and Alipay are both very different apps, but they do provide similar services in some things. WeChat is like an all-in-one kind of app almost. It has a big group chat function, group chat, of course, to talk to friends, co-workers, in my case to do my homeworks for work. It's got like a Facebook and Twitter kind of thing where you can post statuses and pictures and all sorts. It's got its own wallet where you can use it with money, and you can scan to pay things and scan and pay people. People can pay you kind of things. And it's got mini apps that can link to menus, can link to promotions, to shops, to all sorts. It's got live streams. It's got everything in it. The most important part of it is it's got the money part, which is the main part I use it for, is because pretty much every main Chinese place is gonna use a scan to pay option like WeChat or Alipay, which I'll talk about with Alipay. It also acts as an ID. If you set up WeChat with an ID, with the ID, it then like allows you to scan like COVID, like QR codes to register where you are and just notify you if there's a COVID case that pops up. Alipay is similar. It's got its own wallet linked to your bank account, obviously. It's got messages. It's got a lot of extra services straight in its face, more to do with the services that you'd get around your town, like ordering food, or maybe you would want to get book trains, taxis, maybe you want to go to the cinema, maybe you want to look for services, kind of like a Yellow Pages, it's got like everything there. You just need to look for it. So, and Alipay also has these health codes, which you again need to when going to places in this COVID environment, just to show people that you are okay. The health code usually reflects what your COVID test looks like or your location. So like green is good, yellow was near somebody, red is dude's got COVID. So these are two very essential apps for getting by in China. Pretty much all of your payments are going to come via WeChat or Alipay. I rarely see people using cash nowadays. I don't know, it feels very modern. Despite how kind of not so modern China feels, or Yangzhou feels, it's a very modern thing to have, and it's very convenient. Of course, you can still keep things in your bank account, you can keep things in person, but WeChat and Alipay are very essential things, just with money, in my case. Now, I've missed out some obvious things in the essentials, and that's because I feel like they didn't really need explaining, and that is, of course, you need your visa. You can't go anywhere without your visa. You need money. You can't come to China without money. Even if your school is covering funds, you're gonna come here and you're gonna work for maybe a month. Maybe your work, maybe it's not even a school. Maybe your work gives you some money to help you out at the start. Maybe they don't. You're gonna need money for that first month. Whether you get your apartment covered for you or not is another thing. But in my case, my apartment was already covered for me. So I came here and, I didn't have much money to buy food. I didn't have much money to do a lot of things. So make sure you've got some amount of money when you come over here. It kind of varies on how much money, but like at least 2,000 RMB, I'd say. Just at least to buy food and groceries for that first month. And of course, medication. I don't have or take any medication besides like the usual counter stuff like for headaches and like hay fever, blah blah blah. But if you've got any medication that you really need, like prescription stuff, make sure you've got that stuff with you beforehand, because it might be a hassle to get it when you come back here, when you come over here. I can't really talk for experience throughout that one, but it's good to just make sure you've got your supply, just in case there is a bit more of a hassle to it. Now, the not so essential things you may need or will want while you live here in China. These will probably make things more enjoyable or better for you, but you don't necessarily need them, as is the definition of essential. So the first one I'm going to talk about is comfort foods. This may seem kind of obvious, but while China does have a vast array of foods and snacks and all sorts, there's a good chance they're not going to have the things you really like, much more noticeable with me from the UK. China has a lot of imported snack stuff from the US, like their foods. They've got like Lay's and things like that. Their chocolate is all based on American chocolate and blah blah blah. All of their like sauces and cereals and all sorts, just like things that you take for granted. Even cheese. I guess cheese is a comfort food. These things that you take for granted back home, it's not so common here. Now, I'm not saying bring all of this when you come to China. Maybe bring a packet of crisps if you really want some. But definitely try and find sources that you can get new ones in, because as a fan of salt and vinegar Pringles and salt and vinegar crisps in general, they don't exist. I've yet to find salt and vinegar crisps anywhere. I guess they just don't like vinegar. Again, and if you like American chocolate, good on you. American chocolate's here. It's fine if you are a normal human being. No, if you're like me from the UK and you prefer UK chocolate, then you're shit out of luck for that. So you might need to go online to find some like UK snacks. Sauces, you'll usually find like the basic sauces like Heinz and all their product stuff. A couple of stores like Metro around here that can sell some imported sauces if you need anything like that. But China typically has a bunch of these things. If you're a big fan of cereal, it's not too common here, especially not the brand stuff you're used to, like Kellogg's. You can find it here and there, but it's kind of small. There's smaller variants, and usually not the ones you like. So you might again have to go online. And cheese again, it depends on the store you go to. Maybe one store will have it, but then maybe the next 3 near you won't. There's a couple of stores that I've been to, and 2 of them do have a good like choice of cheese. Like your mozzarellas, your I've forgotten all the cheese names. But just the typical cheeses anyway. Just have a look around, of course, and then if you're gonna bring any comfort food with you to China, I'd just say limit it to small things, chocolate or crisps, anything that won't get destroyed. Now another thing is technology. Technology might be essential to you, it might not be, it just depends on what you're going to be doing. Of course, a laptop could probably be very essential to you for both work and something to do at home. Make sure, if you've got a laptop and you're just debating on bringing it, just bring it. If it's a decent laptop, just bring it. Whether you use it for work or not is one thing, but if you're going to do something at home, like watch a movie or something, then you might as well just bring your laptop, link it with your VPN, use Netflix still. If you've got a console that's not the PS5, which requires a third suitcase, bring your console. A Switch is very good because it can just fit in your carry-on. The Xbox, I don't know what they're doing with those 2 consoles, but yeah, if you've got a console, bring them. They can connect online without the use of a VPN, and it's kind of iffy at points, but that's what you're kind of prepared for when you're coming here. So don't worry about bringing laptops or consoles. Obviously, PCs, bring that at your own risk, in its own separate box. Bring that at your own risk. But I'd just limit it to your laptop and a small console if you do have that. Next thing is an expat group. Now, what is an expat group? That is... Now, another thing is delivery apps. Delivery apps are very useful because, of course, it's like an all-in-one kind of thing. Like back home, you'd have like Uber Eats, you'd have Deliveroo, you'd have Just Eats, these kind of things that would focus on restaurants, and then you could go to specific shops to get food orders, supermarket orders. But delivery apps here kind of work as an all-in-one kind of thing. So the one I use, Eleme, has all the restaurants, all the fast food places, all the takeaways, but it's also got all the shopping like centres, it's got all the supermarkets, it's got like just random shops, cosmetics, it's got pet shops, it's got medicine, it's got all sorts. So it's good to have this all in one. Food is fairly cheap to order, like takeaway food. Just depending where you go. If you go for bigger brand stuff like McDonald's, KFC, all these kind of things, or like proper restaurants, then yeah, it's going to be a bit expensive. But there's a lot of restaurants that are quite cheap. Even ordering like 1 meal, 2 meals a day is going to maybe barely go over 80 RMB, depending on how fat you feel. And again, food orders is really good. Like supermarket orders is really good. You can order a fair amount. I've ordered so much before to the point where I'm sure the delivery workers hate getting my orders. But I usually use it when I'm ordering things like drinks, big cases of drinks to fill out fridges, because it's heavy. It's like I'll pay someone else to drive it to me. So yeah, delivery apps they're not essential, but I still recommend using them. They can be a bit annoying to navigate because they're all in Chinese. So this is where the translator apps come in, like Google or the pens if you've got any of the phones with them. Just switching between translations can help you figure out what means what, and when you've got the hang of it, it's easy to use. Another app, and the last thing I'll talk about is Taobao. Now Taobao is this kind of blend of like eBay and Amazon, so it's another delivery app. Now Taobao can be for anything you want. It can fill in those comfort foods that you want, so you can order anything that you're missing, like in my case, salt and vinegar crisps. You can order those things. It can be for high quality meats and food products that you don't find in your supermarket. If you want proper steaks, you can order them. You can get like a 12 pack of steaks sent to you in 3 days. If you want technology stuff like your computers, your laptops, your consoles, your phones, all sorts, it's there. And then it's got everything in it. Like, honestly, I don't know what I haven't found in Taobao. I found cars. People selling cars in Taobao. Fucking fucking houses, apartments. You can order everything. You can order services. It's an all-in-one kind of thing. And what's great about Taobao is Taobao has so many sale days, big sale days, where everything just goes on sale for stupid amounts of money. And even better, every time you buy something, you're directed to the seller. Now, maybe this is a common thing. I didn't order much when I was back in the UK, but every single item you buy, the seller talks to you. Not a robot, like an actual person will talk to you. They will just basically confirm things with you, and if there's anything specific that you need to tell them, they'll ask you about it. And then you can obviously give them questions about, well, where's the order going to be, where's the delivery, blah blah blah. And of course, when you order things, it has this nice little map that shows you exactly where your package is, and it can show you the truck and what route it's going to be, how many days it's going to be, and where it's going to be. And depending on where you live, it will link up with a package like service for me in my community, where they can then send out a code that I can use to go and pick up my package. It's a very good system here, so I don't need to worry too much about texting people or phoning people like, where's my salt and vinegar crisps? It's very nice. There's very little verbal communication I need to do. Just text messages and translations. It's great. So yeah, Taobao, if you want to order things, it's amazing. It can get very addicting very quickly. It's hard to show, but I've got stuff behind me. Pretty much everything in his room was ordered via Taobao. But yeah, that's the last thing, I guess, that's not so essential. And that wraps up the list, I suppose. I've obviously missed out a ton of things, but those are the things that I can immediately jump off the top of my head when I talk about what is essential and what is not so essential when living in China. If you lived in China and you have any extra things that I've missed, then feel free to write it in the comments. If you want to know about specific things that I've listed here, just let me know. If you want to know more about WeChat, if you want to know about Eleme, whatever, just let me know. And of course, if you've got any ideas for another video, again, let me know. And I will see you guys again next time, alright? So, bye bye!